Hello, I'm Kat of Current Ritual, coming to you from the digs in Carbondale, Colorado. And today I'm going to talk about womb wisdom. And this is just going to be a brief overview. And if you want more information or if you want to dive deeper into this topic, you can always email me at kat@currentritual.com. So KAT at currentritual.com. And we can see what works for you individually. So, again, this is not medical advice. This is just sharing of my opinion through my personal experience, as well as being a healthcare professional managing my own health, basic science information. So, for your enrichment, but does not replace medical advice from a professional because each of us have a different set of circumstances that we're dealing with. And there's nuances with healthcare and how we each achieve our most vibrant self. So what we're going to start with is just some basics that people should be aware of. And a lot of people are waking up, especially around birth control. So we're going to start there. So historically, if you didn't know, back when birth control was developed, there was male birth control and female birth control. And the males in the studies did not like the side effects of the birth control. So pretty much the medical complex got rid of that and focused on medicating the females. So that's part of this story. And hormonal birth control, generally, the reason why it doesn't allow you to get pregnant or, has the 98% success rate, whatever, if it's used properly, is because hormonal birth control makes your body believe that you are pregnant. So if you didn't know that, that's what it's doing. It makes you think you're pregnant so you don't shoot off eggs. So this for me is problematic for many reasons. And I was put on birth control around age 15, and by age 19, I had taken myself off, and I've never been on hormonal birth control again. I've learned other ways to manage fertility and my cycle and birth control, which we'll get into a little bit later. So that's the first thing to recognize. And so when your body believes it's pregnant, there's a few things that happen. One is that your pheromones change. And if you don't know what those are, pheromones are basically through your sense of smell, and it's a lot of subconscious processes going on. And then you're attracted when you believe that you're pregnant. People who smell good to you, who you feel attracted to, are actually similar genome, which means your genetics are more similar than dissimilar. The reason for this, evolutionary wise, is when women are pregnant, our bodies want to be around brothers, uncles, father who will protect us and protect the offspring. When we are ovulating and fertile and not pregnant, our pheromones are different. And in that state of fertility, what smells good to us, what we're attracted to, is generally a dissimilar genome. The reason for this is because when you have more genetic variance and variety between the two parents, generally you're going to end up with a healthier offspring. So I learned about this when I was 19 years old. This is why I took myself off birth control because I was like, oh, no way, I'm not going to mess up the health of my offspring or who I'm attracted to. I don't want to trick my system into being attracted to someone with a similar genome. And so we could get into a deeper discussion another time, but looking at um, infertility, looking at difficulty with conception, looking at divorce, it gives me pause on the role of hormonal birth control because people a lot are like on it during college. They meet their person, they get married, they get off birth control to try to get pregnant, and then all of a sudden they're not attracted to that person anymore. They're having trouble getting pregnant. Part of me thinks it's because of this similar genome pheromone flip that a lot of people are not aware is going on because a lot of it's subconscious. So that's the first thing. That's like the biggest aha piece of information that if you did not know, you should know. And then beyond that, um, the next thing I want to talk about is fertility cycles. And So when you're not on birth control and your body is in its natural state, I believe that our fertility is foundational in our overall health and well-being. So when you mess with that system, I think your immune function, your mental health, sort of everything is affected. You know, nothing happens isolated in our body. Everything sort of affects everything. So if you're not ovulating, for example, because your body thinks it's pregnant, those eggs are meant to be shot off every month, once a month. And if you don't know about cycle tracking, when you start a bleed, that's day one. So the first day you're bleeding is day one. And then usually, if it's a predictable regular cycle, you're going to ovulate around day 14. And that's because in those first 2 weeks, you usually bleed for the first week, 4 to 6, 7 days. And then that next week, your uterus is building up the lining, which could support life if an egg was fertilized and implanted. So around that day 14, you shoot off an egg. That egg is only viable for 24 hours. And so once, if it's not fertilized, that egg will, pass through. And then that next week, it's sort of starting to say, oh, we didn't get fertilized. And then the week after that, we're going to shed that lining and the bleed will come again. So there's a range of normal. A normal cycle might be 25 to 30, 32 days. Everyone is different. And my cycle, because I've been letting my body do its thing for so long, is really predictable. Um, and there's signs of being fertile, and people should know that if you're a female who has a womb and you have sex with men, sperm can live in your vaginal canal for anywhere from 3 to 5 days. So if you're using natural, cycle tracking and that week before you ovulate, like starting day 8 or 9 to day 14, 15, 16, that's your most fertile period. Because even if you haven't shot off an egg, but you have sex, um, then a sperm could live in there for 3 to 5 days. Then you shoot off the egg, it could get fertilized. Whereas if you know that you ovulated, you shot off the egg, you felt it. I get pinching, and you shoot eggs usually one a month, and it alternates ovaries. So you'll shoot right ovary, you'll shoot an egg 1 month, the next month the left shoots an egg. And I can feel like a little pinch, and sometimes I'll have cramping leading up to ovulation. Sometimes there'll be ovulation spotting where you bleed just a tiny little bit, and your cervical mucus changes. All of these are signs that you're fertile. There's ways to listen to your body to know. Well, after you shot that egg, then okay, I'm in the 24-hour window when I'm most fertile. And then after that, that week after, generally a little less uh, risky as far as chances of getting pregnant versus that week before ovulation. So that's another like basic knowledge if you're trying to do cycle tracking and natural birth control through tracking your cycle. These are the basics for that. Now, other birth control methods, of course, there's condoms. Uh, there's latex condoms, which protect against pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases or infections. And then there's lambskin condoms. Now, for people who have latex allergies or sensitivities, be aware that the lambskin condoms, uh, while they protect against pregnancy, they do not protect against the sexually transmitted infections. And that's because of the pore size within the lambskin. It will block sperm, but it won't always protect against these small viral cells that can get through. So that's a point of consideration for our latex sensitive girlies out there who might still want to use condoms. So get those STI tests, make it commonplace to have these conversations with your partner. Like this isn't just a talk for womb women. This is for anyone who enjoys womb space, and men should be aware. And it would be really beautiful if part of this paradigm shift and women reclaiming their body and their fertility is that these conversations are common. I would love it if we have male partners we're having sex with ask, where are you in your cycle? So that they can, make a safe container, make a plan, talk about fertility, talk about methods. You may not think it's sexy to have those conversations, but it actually creates a lot of intimacy because safety and transparency and communication are all foundations of pleasure. So I would encourage you to have these conversations with your partners, make plans ahead of time, or if, it's hot and heavy and you're into it, stop, take a pause and talk about these things because those kind of conversations on the front end are a lot better than trying to clean up or integrate a situation that maybe didn't go as well as it could because we didn't have this clear communication on the front end. So yeah, men have a huge role to play with helping this paradigm shift so that women can get back into our full health, back into our fertility, and still enjoy intimacy and pleasure, hopefully more than ever before. So we reviewed hormonal birth control and what it does to your system, the fact that it changes your pheromones and it makes you think you're pregnant. Something I haven't mentioned yet is the fact that you're not shooting off eggs. I am curious about the backlog of eggs kind of getting stuck that are meant to be released, and if that decreases our fertility and the vibrancy of the children we would want to have because it's like all these eggs are stuck and like backlogged that were meant to be released. So I personally think that women are meant to be in their fertility cycles, and it's part of our spiritual well-being, our physical well-being, our hormonal well-being. So take that for what it's worth. And then we also reviewed cycle tracking, fertility periods, and then having safe conversations with a partner around being collaborative. Because if you're going to be intimate with someone, if you don't feel comfortable to have this conversation, then maybe you should consider whether intimacy with that person is healthy for you or both of you. So I give you permission to try on some new cycles, to try on some new patterns, and to handle your fertility and your sexual sovereignty potentially in a new way. Okay, anything else for today? Yes. So two other things. If you aren't into using condoms, there is natural birth control that is a gel that you can insert. That's like a spermicidal natural gel. I'm connected with a company. Please reach out if you would want more information about that gel. You can buy over-the-counter things, also read the instructions properly. And then, as far as natural birth control, I like to keep a Queen Anne's lace tincture on hand always because that is an emagogue, which makes you bleed. It forces you to bleed. So that historically, Indigenous women, when we had a better relationship with the earth and women had a bit more sovereignty, especially in Indigenous cultures, I've been learning about we would use the Queen Anne's lace if we had an experience where we thought we might have been fertilized. We would take the Queen Anne's lace to force the bleed so the egg doesn't implant. So to me, this is uh, a healthy, low risk way to have plants to support you in your fertility. It's important to know that overusing anything can decrease its effectiveness. So you're not meant to use Queen Anne's lace tincture every single month. This is meant to be truly utilized in a sacred and sovereign way when you think maybe you were fertilized and you don't feel ready to create life with that person or have a child. That is a really nice backup to have on hand. And it's, again, if you want more information, you can contact me at Kat, at currentritual.com. And I think that's enough for today. Uh, but there's so much more to explore in terms of rituals around healing your womb space, healing hormones, feeling sovereign and whole in your body, embodying pleasure, receiving pleasure. I mean, we could pop off on that topic. So that may be another day or a private session. But I hope that there has been something in this for you to consider. And I thank you for tuning in and being on a journey to be a sovereign being. You know what's best for yourself. So just sit in the stillness and let the answers come to you. Until next time, take care.